Hello, good morning. I am with David Horne today, and David is the founder of Funding Focus. David also has a consulting practice called Add Then Multiply that works with entrepreneurs to scale up. And he has an amazing FACE methodology, which helps people to fund, acquire, consolidate, and exit. So this is clearly David's thing, getting funding for businesses to enable them to expand. But David, you started Funding Focus last year, which is a different different focus to what you've been concentrating on. So tell us what it is and why you've got into this different area.
Yep. Okay. So Funding Focus is a social enterprise, and it's something that I set up last year. Our mission is to level the uneven playing field that female and diverse entrepreneurs face when raising capital. And we do that through raising awareness and providing education to founders, investors, and we're starting to reach out to NGOs and governments worldwide as well. And we are committed to supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals number 4 and number 5. And for those of you who are into together bands, I even wear them. That's goal number 4, which is quality education. And that's goal number 5, which is gender equality. So how did I get into this? I was speaking at an event in Reading in the spring of 2019. It was an SME business event, and I was talking to the audience about how they can raise capital. And after my talk, a woman came up to me and asked why so little venture capital funding went to female entrepreneurs. And I said, I have no idea, but I'll find out. And what I found out was really rather shocking. It wasn't long after that event that I had a meeting with the chief executive of the British Business Bank. She and I had met at an event previously with networking, and this was a networking follow-up session. And we had a very pleasant conversation. And towards the end, I thought, well, I'll ask her if she knows anything about it. And she said, yes, the bank has actually produced a research report. So there's a full-blown research report that was published a little over 18 months ago now. And it looked at all of the venture capital deals in the UK in 2017. And they found that out of every pound invested, less than a penny went to all female founding teams. Only 10p went to mixed gender teams, and more than 89p went to all male teams. And I just looked at that and I thought, that's wrong. And I started doing more research into it, and I found that there had been a few events around the publication of the report that were very much focused on the industry side, so on the venture capital industry and what were the funders doing. But there was nothing that was looking at what was the story from the side of the entrepreneurs. And so I decided that this was a story that needed telling. And so I pulled some favors and pulled some strings and called on friends. And we ended up running an event at the London Stock Exchange on the 25th of November last year. We got the theatre of the London Stock Exchange and filled it. And you were there, Lucy.
I was. It was brilliant. Yes.
And and that was sort of the beginning. And then I had great plans for running a whole bunch more events this year. And then obviously COVID kicked in.
Obviously, yes.
And so things got sort of put on hold. And then as I was sitting down over the summer, just thinking, where are we going in the autumn? I just thought, well, we've got the anniversary coming up. Let's run an online conference. And so that's what we're doing this year.
That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, some of the figures are, yes, it's just ridiculous. Less than 1%, I think you've written.
Less than 1%. And when you drill into the detail of the report, yeah, all female teams submitted 5% of the pitch decks and got less than 1% of the funding.
Right. So it's not just...
teams. Yeah, mixed gender teams submitted 20% of the pitch decks and got 10%. And the all male teams submitted 75% of the decks and got 89%. So it's just...
What do you put that down to? Is it simply what we call unconscious bias, or is there anything else going on there?
I would hope that it's more the latter, more the former than the latter. I mean, it's, you know, there have been a number of other reports that came out. There was one report that came out last year just before the conference from Morningstar. And they looked at all of the listed open-ended investment companies in the UK. There's just under 1,500 of them. And they found that 108 funds were run by a man named David, or men named David. And as a man named David, I thought that was kind of cool. But then you read the report a little further and you find out that only 105 funds are run by all women. So there's more Davids running funds than all women. And again, that's just, it's a systemic issue.
Yeah.
And with the research that I've been doing over the last 12 months, looking into where are the funding, where are the venture capital funds working, what's going on there. There are a number of funds that are springing up that are very much focused on women. And then one of the other things that came out of the event last year was this isn't just a women versus men issue. There were loads of men from diverse backgrounds who were attending the event, and they said it's exactly the same thing. And there have been more reports come out this year. There was a report published about a month ago by the British Business Bank that was looking at funding for Black owned businesses, and it's exactly the same statistics. Yeah. And the other thing we learned was this isn't just a UK problem. At last year's event, we had comments on our social media posts from people in about 10 countries around the world. And so I decided to open things up and look at where there were issues and where there were problems. And it's everywhere I'm looking, it's an issue. So one of the key things we've done this year, one of the advantages of it being an online event is that we can have speakers from all over the world. So we've got speakers from the USA, the UK, Switzerland, Malta, and Singapore. And we've got people attending, so people who've signed up to the tickets already from as far west as San Francisco, as far east as Jakarta, and as far south as Cape Town.
Amazing. So let's just talk about the event. So this is an online event for to raise awareness of this issue, essentially.
It's got kind of two objectives. It's an awareness raising exercise, and it's also for the people who are attending. It's also an opportunity for them to hear the stories of people who have successfully traversed the uneven playing field, and actually have entrepreneurs who have raised capital, and also to hear from some of the investors who backed them. And so we've got our speaker from Singapore is a lady who runs a firm called Her Capital. She's just launched that in this year, and she invests exclusively in female-led businesses. One of the other VCs who's coming, is Malta. I think I forgot to mention Malta. We have a speaker from Malta. But there's a VC based in Malta, and his portfolio is approximately 50-50 male and female founders. And then the third investor that we're actually going to have a little double act, because we've got him representing the investment side, and also one of his investee companies. So we're going to have the two of them together talking about what their story is and how they came together and what they've learned. So it's really, it's an awareness raising thing. And I'm doing work. One of our sponsors is a marketing communications business called For Communications. And I'm working with their team to get some government awareness in there. We're looking at getting some PR after the event. And also through my own personal networking, I'm now connected in with the lady who runs the secretariat of the all-party parliamentary group on entrepreneurship and inclusion. And I'm now starting to get active within that group. So I'm speaking at one of their events next week.
Wonderful. No, that's absolutely brilliant. So it's a way. What needs to happen then is to change the minds of people who feel, even if they don't intellectually think it, they feel it somewhere in their subconscious, that women and Black people are not credible
or any other minority,
or any other minority,
Black, Asian, mixed ethnicity,
totally.
the whole,
yes, anyone who's not a white man, basically,
exactly,
not credible in some way. And that's exactly what I found when I started the Business Book Awards, and for very first awards, all our winners were white men, and it's absolutely not conscious and not deliberate. But there is something there about feeling insecure with people who have not been in that position for all these years, all these decades. So there have to be ways of actually making that change, and I think this is fantastic.
And I think as well, there's some education. It's something like this that's so systemic is going to take time to change.
Absolutely.
And so part of it will be hearing the stories of people who've done well. And what did they do? And, how did they have to potentially change their behavior? And, one of our speakers last year, a lady called May Al-Karumi that runs a business called Globe Chain. And I mean, some of the questions that she had were, quite frankly, if it had been a job interview, she would have been able to take them to a tribunal.
Wow.
She said she almost had to take on a male persona, and pardon the expression, but as she put it, she had to be ballsy in her answers to these people. And she secured the funding. But in the short term, that's a way to get around it. But over the medium to longer term, we have to change that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, women and people from diverse backgrounds need to be able to be who they are and still seem credible. And actually, the results speak for themselves, don't they? Because the outcomes of women-led companies are at least as good, if not in some cases better than.
There was actually a report published, Lucy, by Boston Consulting Group, one of the big global consulting firms. And they looked at I think it was over 400 venture capital backed deals in the United States over the period of about a year. And they found that female founded firms generated 2.5 times as much revenue per dollar invested as male founded firms.
Wow,
2.5 times as much.
Why isn't everybody rushing to invest in
exactly? It's not just a good thing to do.
No, exactly. We don't want it to look like, let's be nice to women, let's be nice to diverse people. It's not like that. It's why aren't you doing this for completely self-interested financial reasons?
Exactly. And one of the other findings that came out of the recent British Business Bank report on the Black founders was more than 2.5 or 3 times as much new inventions, new products, new things, innovation broadly delivered from them.
How fascinating.
Exactly.
That's extraordinary. So okay, so let's how can people join the event? When's it happening?
So the event is happening from 2 until 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 25th of November, which is 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
So it's 2 till 6 p.m. UK time. So depending on where you are in the world, adjust accordingly. The tickets are free and they're available on Eventbrite. And I'm sure, Lucy, when you post this, we can put a link to the tickets so people can see that. But if you just go onto Eventbrite and search Funding Focus, or if you go onto the Funding Focus website, which is funding-focus.com, and then just scroll down and there'll be a button where you can click and that'll take you through to the Eventbrite page.
I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I mean, stories are the way that people remember things, that we take on board, much more than kind of hard information in a way. This is what people will remember. So I think it's going to be a fascinating session of listening to the stories of people who have succeeded and how they did it. So
absolutely.
David, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for putting this together. And I very much look forward to being there and being part of it. And we'll hopefully everybody will sign up for this, and lots of people will come along, and
that'd be great.
Really will make
everyone's welcome.
Fantastic.
Super. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right,
so
take
much,
care.
David.